Hey there everybody, welcome to another episode of Bert's Bike. Today we're going to look at the Harley Davidson Heritage Classic. So I was invited to go on this ride from our local Harley dealership by my friend Shelby. She's actually one of the first people I met when I first started riding years ago, and we're still riding together now. So she owns a couple bikes and this is her personal Heritage Classic. We always talk shop together and she's always talking about her Harleys and how she loves them. So she let me borrow her bike for the ride, and so I could maybe get the Harley experience and maybe write a review for you guys and gals out there on YouTube land. So thanks so much, Shelby, for loaning me your bike and trusting me with it. I really appreciate it. Alright, so let's jump into it. Let's start off with the way the bike looks. To my eye, this is what I consider a quintessential Harley Davidson. I love the classic styling of the bike. The fit and finish look phenomenal. She has it outfitted with this Two Brothers exhaust on there, which I think looks really good. I love how long the pipes are and how far back they run on the bike. The only thing that I'm not so jazzed about with the look are these studs on the seat and the passenger pillion. I also love these stock Harley mirrors. I think the shape is super good, and they're also really quality made, really solid and rigid. And no surprise, the paint job looks really rich and deep. Overall, a beautiful bike, and exactly what you would expect from Harley Davidson. Alright, let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about how the bike feels when you sit on it and while you're out on the ride. Well, when you first sit on the bike, you really notice the quality of this machine. With all the Harleys that I've seen and ridden in person, the one thing I've noticed that is consistent for all the classic style Harleys is the rigidity and feel of quality on the components. Everything from the switches to the mirrors to the chassis to the feel of the bike just feels super rigid and stout. With that said, it is a heavy machine. It comes in at about 728 pounds, and you really do feel it from when you ride the bike up on the kickstand, when you're moving the bike around in your garage, a tight space, or duck walking the bike. You really do feel the weight there. And like all bikes, once you get moving, the weight doesn't matter so much, but if you're doing a lot of distance riding, that weight does translate into stability at higher speeds. And depending on your style of riding, that could be a plus or minus for you. So because of the weight of the bike and also having the high handlebars, the bike is a little heavy to tip in, but once you get it there, it holds the line really well. So if you're getting after it, you might just have to be a little bit more methodical about taking these corners. So it's a cruiser, so it's not going to handle like your sport bike, but for a cruiser, I think it does really well. So one thing about this bike, it comes standard with floorboards, and I really do like having the floorboards, even though I'm really used to just having pegs. They're nice, big, and comfortable, and there's a lot of room to move your feet around. So everything on this bike is kind of where you'd want it to be. All your input controls, the levers, the switches. One small thing I found that was interesting is the brake pedal is actually pretty big. It's almost like a car brake pedal. Now this is nothing crazy, but if you're coming from like a sport bike or a naked bike, the pedals are typically very minimalistic. Alright, so let's talk about this windshield. So I'm about 6'1", and the windshield for riding around town, it works really well. It keeps the wind off of your chest, and it's just maybe just brushing the top of my helmet at 6'1". And you could probably tell from the video you are getting a little bit of turbulent wind at these speeds, but nothing crazy. However, when you get to above 70, 80 miles an hour, things seem to change pretty drastically. At these speeds, there's a lot of turbulence and buffeting that's happening. And I think what's happening is the windshield is blocking the wind off of you, but there's some wind coming from under the windshield that is causing some turbulent air behind the windshield. However, if you tuck in close to the windshield, there seems to be a dead zone where all that goes away. I see a lot of people combat this by putting lower fork guards on or actually putting wind guards on the crash bars. Also, above 70 miles an hour, there seems to be a little bit more vibration in the handlebars. It's nothing crazy, but it's just something to note. So if this were my bike, I'd probably take the windshield off and ride around like that most of the time. I might put the windshield back on when it's a little colder out, or if it's a little bit inclement weather, just to keep some of the rain off of me a little bit. Also, the windshield seems very easily removable. Lastly, let's talk about the power of the motorcycle. So it's Harley's 114 engine, and really there's no lack of power here. I think stock it's almost 120 foot-pounds of torque, and with the upgrades on this bike, it's definitely pushing past that. The power is smooth and predictable, it comes on low in the rev range, and really doesn't leave me wanting for any more. As far as brakes go, I feel like it's adequate for the motorcycle, but honestly, I didn't really get a chance to really hit them hard on this ride. As far as range is concerned, for such a big engine, it actually gets pretty good gas mileage, so on the website it's rated at 47 miles per gallon, which I think is really good for an engine this size. Also, it has a 5-gallon tank, which is pretty great considering most of the bikes I've owned have had a 3 or 4-gallon tank. So all in all, I really feel it's a very solid offering from Harley Davidson. It's super comfortable and very well equipped from the factory. It comes with the soft bags, the floorboards, and the windshield. So if you bought it new from the showroom floor, you could go ahead and take your trip right from the dealership. Lastly, let's talk about the price. Now the bike starts at $21,000. In my opinion, its closest competitor is the Indian Chief, particularly the Indian Chief Limited. It's priced almost identically to this motorcycle and has a lot of the same features too, the bags, the windshield, and the floorboards. So it looks like Indian was really coming after this particular bike. However, Indian recently released the Sport Chief, which has Fox and KYB suspension, a front fairing, Brembo brakes, and ride command, and coming in at $19,000, which is $2,000 less than this bike. So which one should you get? Well, a Harley is not an Indian, and the Indian is not a Harley, even though they may have similar offerings on paper. In my opinion though, the Harley does beat the Chief out in this major category, which is the fit and finish and quality of components. Now don't get me wrong, Indian motorcycle makes a fine machine, but I feel like the Harley just feels like a more solid machine with better paint and more solid components. The Sport Chief does have the edge in the suspension and the braking department though, and it's also a lighter bike. But really, you should just get out there, ride both bikes if these are in your radar, and just go with your gut and do what feels right to you. So in my opinion, one thing that Harley Davidson does really well is deliver the feel of the ride. When you're on a Harley, you just feel super confident and really engaged in the ride and into the machine. And that's something I think that Harley Davidson does extraordinarily well. And I think this bike definitely has that, but also comes with those classic looks that Harley is known for. Well guys, I really enjoyed riding this bike. Thanks again to Shelby for loaning it to me. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble on. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. This is Bert's Bike, and I will catch you on the next one.
All right, 100 plus miles today. What a great bike. This is awesome.